Hey everyone! Thank you for joining me on the second episode of My Nerdy Memories. And in this video we're going to be talking about the Sega Master System. Now I wanted to take a minute here at the start, and I'm going to do this for every single episode going forward, to give you a little bit of backstory about how I got to this point, where I got the console or how I started, and a little bit about where I'm going with the video. So in this case, the Sega Master System was the first console I ever personally owned. As I said in the introduction video, technically the first consoles I played were an Atari and an Odyssey 2, but those were the family's consoles. They didn't belong to me personally. But my father, at some point, I don't remember if it was my birthday or Christmas, bought me a Model 1 Sega Master System, the one that was big, it had like the wood grain, and it had a card slot on it. And I remember going to his place. So to understand this, when I was about 3 years old, my parents split up. I grew up in a household where mom had me during the week, dad had me on the weekends. It was normal for me. I'm perfectly fine. In fact, I didn't even know why they split up until I was 20 years old, and I finally asked my mother. Like as a kid, that was normal for me. I got 2 Christmases and 2 birthdays. But I went over to my dad's place, and at the time, he was living in a trailer on the property of the company he worked for. He still works for that company, actually. My entire life, he's worked at one place outside of the Navy. And I go over there as a kid, and there's the Sega Master System and a copy of Shinobi. Now, the Master System came bundled with games built into the console. If you didn't actually have a cart put in, it actually had games. And I want to say the Model 1 that I had Alex Kidd in Miracle World and Hang On. Yeah, because the other one had Safari Hunt. And I vividly remember playing these games and being completely fascinated. Because, I was used to the Odyssey and the Atari. And now I'm playing something with multiple colors and sound and progression, and it just blew my little kid mind. Eventually, I had to go back home to my mom's, so we took the whole console with me. And that proceeded for a long time. I would basically have the console at my mom's, he would come pick me up, we would disassemble it, haul it over to his place. In fact, one of these instances, his boss decided to let me play it on the projector TV that his boss owned, because his boss was a rich motherfucker. So I got to play Shinobi on a projector TV. Woo. But that went on for a long time, and then my dad got so annoyed at doing this that he actually bought me the cheaper Model 2 Sega Master System, which did not have a card slot, and instead had the weird little door. And that one, I want to say, had Safari Hunt, which was Sega's Duck Hunt, and the other Alex Kidd, the Lost Stars, inside of it. And then I had 2 Sega consoles. The other big thing I remember is renting a lot of games. Surprisingly, the local video stores in my area at the time had both NES and Sega Master System games. In fact, most of the games on this video I rented, I didn't own. I only owned a couple of them. And I remember going as a kid. At one point, I even rented Zaxxon 3D. The Master System's card slot had a little accessory you could install, plug in, that were 3D glasses. I don't know why. And Zaxxon 3D was the game that ran with it. I remember renting that with a pair of 3D glasses for a weekend. Never again. It made me sick. So, but yeah. So coming back to play all these games on the literal first console I ever owned was kind of fun. It did teach me, however, nostalgia's a hell of a drug. So let's go ahead, and we're going to start off with the first game I ever owned on the console, Shinobi. Enjoy. Oh, and one other thing. I didn't say this in my introduction, but I did put it in the description. But going forward, if a game has a remaster, I'm going to probably play the remaster. It is simply easier to get a hold of. One of the games in here is a remaster. So just bear that in mind. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, because these videos are also going to be entirely unscripted, let's go ahead and get into Shinobi, shall we? Alright, we're going to talk about Shinobi. This is, as far as I'm aware, a port of an arcade game, and it plays like one, and holy crap. I still remember it, though, like it was yesterday. So the funny story about Shinobi, the one thing that sticks out in my head is playing it on a projector TV as a kid. For whatever reason, as I said, my dad lived on basically like the property of the company he worked for, which he still works for, although he doesn't live on property anymore. And the owner of that company had a huge projector-style TV in one room for meetings. And for whatever reason, my dad got permission to hook the Sega Master System up to this projector when I was over there for a weekend. And I got to play Shinobi on a big projector. It was absolutely ridiculous. Freaking, like, the character, the Shinobi that you play as, I don't know his fucking name. He was probably a good 1.5 feet on the wall. It was great. One thing I will always remember about Shinobi is I could never reliably get past the third stage. The third stage boss is like this giant wall of these statues that come at you, and you have to break them. And then after you break them, you fight the face on a wall. It's a real weird boss fight. And as a kid, I could never reliably get past that. Replaying it for here, kind of the same thing. The biggest problem, I think, is that there's a lot of slowdown, and it's weirdly laggy at times. And some of the enemy placement feels very, very mean. The other problem, of course, is when you die, you lose all your upgrades. Although, comically, playing it this time, I actually figured out how to use the Shinobi magic. Once the little icon starts flashing, you basically press and hold the jump key, and then press the attack key and you do something. I managed to actually get the flying magic to work, which was pretty cool. I've never actually done that. So, I would say give this a try if you're morbidly interested in trying an old school arcade port, but honestly, it's not that great. It doesn't really hold up well in my opinion. My memories are still intact, but it's just sort of there. Let's move on to the next game. Alright, we're on to Alex Kidd in Shinobi World. Now, the Master System had a couple of different Alex Kidd games. It had Alex Kidd in the Lost Stars, Alex Kidd in Miracle World, and Alex Kidd in Shinobi World. I played all three as a kid, but the only one that ever stuck out with me that I enjoyed was Shinobi World. And it's basically Shinobi, the one I already talked about, but with Alex Kidd and better mechanics. Mostly. Replaying it now, I got real frustrated real quick with how floaty the controls are and how slippery Alex Kidd moves. It's real hard to make the precision platforms when he hits and is almost like he's on ice everywhere. It's real bad. The music, though, is great. I love it. It is better than the original Shinobi soundtrack by far. It's much more colorful and much more cartoony, and I like it. But, yeah, I actually played through and got through the third stage. Got to the fourth stage and then ran out of lives, and there are no continues, it seems, unfortunately. But I enjoyed myself with this one. It is a short game. I played it for a grand total of about 10 minutes and got through stage 3. It's real quick. Like many games of this era. And, you know, my memories hold up. I don't remember how I got a hold of this game at all. It's one of the quote-unquote rarer titles on the system now because they didn't make a whole lot of it, apparently. And, yeah, I have no idea how I played it. I don't remember if my dad bought it for me or if I rented it. I know I played it a lot. I've beaten it as a child. I know that much. I just don't remember how or where I got a hold of it. But between it and regular Shinobi, they've both been stuck in my head. And like many things on this entire series, the whole point of putting them here is when I thought of Sega Master System games, this is one of the ones that instantaneously popped into my head. I could still hear the music, I could still see it. And it pretty much holds up outside of the poor controls. Which, granted, nowadays, you know, we're much more used to responsive controls, so I don't know if I'd hold that against it, other than, yeah. The other big thing is that you can get locked by enemies hitting you. Iframes aren't that great, so if you get caught in a corner or something, these things can just keep hitting you. And then they will chip away at your health and you will die, and it is not fun. But yeah, actually, this would not be a bad one to look for if you were in the mood to play a Alex Kidd game. Avoid the other ones. Lost Stars and Miracle World, they're like platformers and they're not that great. If you're going to play any of the Alex Kidds, play this one. Also, the introduction is cute. Alright, on to the next game. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about Astro Warrior. So this is a vertical scrolling shooter. It's an arcade port as far as I'm aware. And yeah, replaying it for this video reminded me just how fucking balls hard it is. One of the big things is if you die, you lose all your upgrades, and you need your upgrades. As a kid, I could never get past the third stage, the third boss. It just never happened. And my skills are even worse now than they were as a kid. It still looks really good, and the music is still really cool, and I still remember all that, and everything that I remembered as a kid was still here. The weapon upgrades, the weird little pod ships, all of that stuff. But man, is it still brutal. Like, holy shit. I got to the start of Stage 2 and got my ass handed to me, and I just looked at what was going on screen and went, yeah, I'm good. Good. This reminds me why some of these games just aren't more known. Like, I've never really heard anybody talking about Astro Warrior, and after replaying it, I can see why. I don't think this holds up in a modern era, and if I were you, I would just avoid it if you're going to play any Sega Master System games. Like I said, it is exactly what I remember it to be. Ball-breakingly hard, and kind of repetitive if you want the honest truth. Let's move on to the next game, shall we? Alright, we're on to Zillion. What the fuck is Zillion? Well, it's basically Sega's answer to Metroid, only nowhere near as good. Even as a kid, I had no idea what the hell I was doing in Zillion. And as an adult, I have even less of an idea. Granted, obviously, the way to play Zillion is with a notepad next to you so you can write down all the codes. I didn't do that as an adult because I forgot. So, I basically just ran around a couple of different rooms. As a kid, I remember playing it and actually getting fairly far in it. I never finished it. I didn't understand what I was trying to do, and I frequently got stuck. Zillion is not a simple game. It's surprisingly complicated even now. You're gonna need a notepad. As far as I know, there's no save system. I don't remember one, and I didn't see one as I was messing around with it now. It does look good, at least, most of the time, when you can tell what's going on. But the primary thing of the game is you go into these rooms, you blow up what appear to be trash cans, so that's what they look like to me now. You press the up key and you get a code, and then you have to, like, decipher the code to do things. It's really not well explained. It's got some nice music, though. I will say I remember the music being good, and the music is still good. But yeah, this one's not holding up for me. I'd rather play Metroid, honestly. Like, Metroid, you know, actually functions as a game. Doesn't require me to remember bizarre 4-digit combinations out of codes. Although the codes are kind of easy if you realize that they're just the number 1 through 0 mirrored. Like, seriously, that's what it is. Like, the M is a 1, the heart is a 2. It's literally 1 through 10, or 0, mirrored. Once you figure that out, you can start easily jotting down the codes. It's just, you gotta remember to jot down the codes, and I didn't. So I didn't get very far. I didn't want to get very far. Honestly, this one did not hold up at all for me. Double Dragon. Now, Double Dragon existed both on the NES and the Sega Master System. I've played both versions, but the one that always stuck out in my head for some reason was the Master System version. Now, I have no idea what's going on with the music in this, because it sure as hell ain't what I remember. However, because I've played it on both consoles, I might be remembering the NES music. The Sega Master System never had a great chip for music, unfortunately. It was much more colorful. It didn't sound that great. Double Dragon is like the first real side-scrolling beat-em-up I ever played, and that's pretty much why it stands out in my head. That, and again, the colorful nature. Also, the Abobos have been a monster that's lived rent-free in my brain forever. I don't really remember how I got a hold of the cartridge at all. I just remember the game. I don't even know if I ever beat it, to be perfectly honest, on either console. Like, thinking back, I remember playing it a lot by myself. I didn't do two-player at all. I didn't really have a whole lot of friends growing up. So I spent a lot of time playing it by myself, and I remember having no idea how to do any of the moves. I still don't. And if you see in the footage here as I'm playing it, the jump kick is king, and that's basically how I played the game even now. I have no idea how to do, like, the elbows. I throw them at random occasions. Without a manual, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. But it's always stuck in my head as this just fun beat-em-up, and it's still pretty fun. But it feels a lot more unfair. Also, it's a lot laggier than I remember it. I don't remember it being this bad. And honestly, I think the superior version is the NES version. So if you're going to play Double Dragon, which you should, it's not a terrible game, play it on the NES. Don't play this version. This version, as we're going back through my memories here, this version is not that great. I definitely had rose-tinted glasses as a child for this one. Let's move on, shall we? Alright, so this colorful piece of madness that you're looking at right now is Fantasy Zone. And the character you play as is called Opa Opa, the little ship, which has these cute little legs as you run along the bottom of the screen. And even as a kid, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing in this game. I still don't have any idea what I'm doing in this game. As a kid, I never owned Fantasy Zone. I rented it a lot from the video store because I had no idea what the hell was going on. As far as I can tell, it's a side-scrolling shooter that has a wraparound level, and you kill things, and I don't know what you do outside of that. I've managed for the first time ever to get to the boss in this game, and promptly died because it's kind of bullet hellish. I really have no idea, other than the fact that its colorful weirdness is what's been stuck in my head as I grew up. I don't think it's a good game. I don't understand it, but it sure is entertaining. Also has pretty catchy music, too. You know, if one of y'all knows what the fuck's going on in this game, please give me an idea, because I sure the fuck do not. And with that, I'm gonna move on to the next game, because this one's making my head spin. Arguably, I've saved the best for last in this video. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the intro, and I'm gonna reiterate here, if there is a remaster or a remake of a game, that's what I'm generally going to play, simply because it's easier for me to get a hold of. Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap has a remaster. Came out a year, 2 years ago, and I instantly bought it. When I think of the Sega Master System, the first game that pops into my head is this one. It was something else as a child. This was the Sega Master System's version of essentially Zelda 2. It is a sort of open-world, exploration-based adventure game. You play as Wonder Boy and you get cursed at the start of the game and you're trying to break that curse. That's the story. It has shape-shifting mechanics, different animals, each animal has a different effect, and it's stuck in my head for ages. I mean, I don't remember playing a game where I could turn into a mouse and climb up checkerboard walls. The music, everything about Wonder Boy 3 has stuck in my head, unfortunately. For better or for worse, the game is a product of its time. And going back and playing it now, and playing it when it released, because I played the remaster when it released, that's why I have all these transformations and things, it's obtuse. It does a poor job of explaining itself. If you've ever seen Castlevania 2 and, like, the infamous, you know, weird, like, directions and things, this has even less than that. A lot of the time you're going to be finding yourself lost as to what to do, looking for areas that you can access, and that way it's actually more of a Metroidvania. But there's no map. The equipment systems until the remaster were incredibly bizarre. You would never know what the hell anything did. You'd be like, is this a better armor than this one? I don't know. It doesn't tell me. Thankfully, the remaster actually tells you stats. It gives you, what the armors do if you're playing in the remaster version. But at the same time, it's still a weird, weird game, and as much as I love it, and I love the remake, I don't know if it's for everybody to play. Like, even going back and playing it, I got to one of the bosses, Dynamo Dragon. Dynamo? No, yeah, Dynamo Dragon. He's this, like, samurai dragon, and to get to him, you have to get to the point of unlocking Lion Man, because you need Lion Man's overhand swing to get to the areas that Dynamo Dragon is in. And I fight Dynamo Dragon. And dear God have mercy, I'm not hurting him. I can only assume I have the wrong weapon. But which weapon do I want? I don't know. I thought I had a good weapon when I was playing. And in order to afford most of the other weapons that I saw in the shops and things, I need a shit ton of money. And to get money, you have to kill enemies, and you get very small amounts from most enemies, so it comes incredibly grindy. As a kid, I had the time to sit there and just farm enemies for hours, because what else am I doing? I finished my homework, I'm not going outside, I don't have friends, I'm a giant nerd. But now I don't want to waste my time fucking grinding coins. I don't want to do that. I really, really don't. Not in a game like this. So as much as I like Wonder Boy 3, as much as it holds a special place as like the first time a game actually showed me that there could be an explorable world, because again, I played this before I ever touched the NES. This was my first experience with a world to explore that was not linear. This thing. But I don't think it really holds up to the modern sensibility. For people who grew up on it, going back and looking at it's a lot of fun, much like looking back at all of these games. In fact, now that I've looked at most of the Sega Master System games that I wanted to, I kind of realized that they don't hold up the greatest. Even to somebody who grew up with it, who loves the console, I don't think these games are all that great anymore. For their time, they were great. Now, not so much. But hey, you know, that's what this whole project's about. Seeing if my memories hold up to me now. And my memories are still good for all of these games. But I don't think I'd want to go back and play them ever again. It's just, I've grown past them. If you want to explore any of these games, I encourage you to do so, except Astro Warrior. Don't do that. Respect your sanity. And the next video we're going to be doing on this series, I'm going to look at the NES. Oh yeah, another 8-bit console. That ought to be fun. As always, I want to thank you all so very much for watching. If you like what I'm doing, hit that like button. It really does help out. And hey, kind to each other, stay nerdy, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for visiting my nerdy memories with me. Take care.